Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build MLB edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith, and we're ready to go over the big. So how many games we got here? Big slate for Wednesday. I think it's like 10 or 11.
Sure.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Okay, so nice sizable slate. Yesterday was not great for me. You did okay. I actually basically broke even. So annoying. Lodolo, dude. Fucking Lodolo. Things were looking good initially, then the rain delay, and then we're like, oh, okay, 11 points, no big deal. Then he comes back in and just totally sheds the bed. And then Kikuchi was the play. 13 strikeouts. But you were on him,
13
so
big ones.
I know you were on him. You were saying you're kind of like a little bit worried about it, but at the same time, you were worried about Lodolo's weather too. So those are the kind of decisions we got to make and be on the right side of. So fortunately, Taylor was, and I wasn't quite enough. All right, so this could be a fun slate. Not as obvious as you were noting before offline as far as the pitching goes, especially the best options are kind of like overpriced. But let's get into it, dude. We got Dodgers and Phillies. And Gavin Stone pitching against Phillies. That doesn't look so good for him. Christopher Sanchez has been good. He goes against the Dodgers, though. I don't know. I think the wind's blowing out here, too. We got 50-mile-per-hour winds, and it's hot and humid there. So I don't really have a lot of interest in the pitching. The pitching's good enough to the point that I'm not as excited about the bats as I normally would be, but I definitely am not into the pitchers, and I would have no issue with playing either side of the bats for sure. Probably leaning Phillies here, but I mean, great park, great weather, wind blowing out. I'm okay with both.
Yeah, the issue with the Phillies is they're pricey. Like they got Harper and Schwarber back. Turner's obviously back too. So you're not getting a discount on this team. And Stone has been kind of like weirdly good. I don't think he's as good as he's been. But I'm still not like dying to pick on him with an overpriced stack. The weather is appealing. So if they are going to be super low owned, I wouldn't mind finding a way to get to them. As of now, I'm not really getting to them. Dodgers have a watered down lineup. Sanchez is kind of a ground ball guy, pretty good pitcher overall. Dodgers' best hitters are lefties also, which is not great. So not a lot here. I think Miguel Vargas is an okay value, like a one-off if he's in the lineup. But other than that, sadly, I'm not really getting to either of these teams.
Yeah, these guys are not giving up any power, especially to the left side, which is where most of these bats are going to hurt you if they're in an advantageous spot. So the weather alone and the park have me interested, but I'm with you. It's just not actually the ideal spot that we would want it to be. All right, Oakland and Boston combined for 21 runs last night. I was on the Oakland side of that, and that actually worked out. They had 9 runs, but then Boston was chalk and they had 12, so it kind of negated any success I was having with them. So we got JP Sears taking on the Red Sox. Obviously, really good spot for hitters in general. Pretty sure it's really warm in this game, too. Yeah, winds out to 10 to 15 miles per hour, and it's warm and humid. And then you have Nick Pivetta on the other side taking on the A's. I actually have a little bit of interest in Pivetta just because this pitching slate is garbage. I don't love the 9.6K price. I don't love the weather or the park, and it's worth noting. I mean, the Athletics aren't good, but they do have some power. 168 collective ISO, major park upgrade. But they do strike out a lot. So I do like Pivetta a little bit. No problem getting to him. But I still also really like Oakland and Boston here. No reason not to.
Yeah, this is something I'll be both sides of. Pivetta, maybe the top pitcher on the slate. Good enough matchup against a high strikeout Oakland team. But like you said, Oakland has power. They're generally cheap. Once you get past Rooker, everyone's like 4K or less. So pretty good value stack. Obviously a massive park upgrade for them. So if you're playing a multi-entry tournament, I would get exposure to both Pivetta and Oakland against him. Obviously not in the same lineups, but good spot for both overall. Oakland mainly a leverage thing. Like it's not a good matchup, but it is a good park and particularly for righty power. So fine with that. Boston's okay. They generally profile worse against lefties. They do have quite a few lefties in their lineup. But Tyler O'Neill, Connor Wong, Rob Refsnyder, even Rafael Devers, lefties, generally fine. Sears is homer prone. big park downgrade for him. So it is a decent spot for Boston. But if they're going to be chalky, I'm not super psyched about it.
Yeah, I think if they're going to be super high owned, that's a pretty good reason to go away from them. Maybe just kick it to the other side of this game. Worth noting, I mean, Pavetta is good, but he does have a 245 ISO against righties specifically. So in this exact matchup tonight, that might not be great. So yeah, I'm with you though, kind of splitting that. I still have a lot of interest in Pavetta, but I do like the Athletics again as well. Reds and Rockies. We got Kyle Freeland taking on the Reds. Not interested in him at all. I'd be mostly on the red side here. And leave the Rockies going up against Frankie Montas. So I guess just because the Rockies aren't really good, you could look at Frankie. What was his price? He's pretty cheap, I thought.
$7K.
That's not bad. I'm okay with Frankie Montas at $7K. Looks like a decent SP2. But also, it's not really a park downgrade because this is a very, very good park for hitting. So if Frankie's going to be popular, I would have no issue with firing up some Rockies. For the most part, though, I'm really just looking at the Reds in this game. How about you?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at Frankie more than anyone else in this game.
Totally fair.
It's frightening because I think he's going to be popular. If he was going to be low owned, I would be a lot more into it. But I'm nervous about getting to chalky Frankie Montas in 2024.
As you should be.
But it is a pretty
dangerous
pitching slate. You know, like
it really
there's not
is.
a lot of opportunity cost.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it. Ideally, I will not be getting to as much exposure as I am now, but it's kind of the nature of this slate. There's not a whole lot you're going to like on the pitching side. Yeah, the Reds against Freeland are going to look great. He's essentially the Rockies version of Patrick Corbin, who we'll get to in a bit.
Yeah.
Cincinnati hit 1 million home runs last night. They have pretty good righty power. Spencer Steer, Chandler Candelario hitting from the right side here. Stevenson, a good hitting catcher. I assume this Reese Hins guy is going to be in the lineup. Pretty good power hitter.
How could he not be? He's donged in every game so far.
Yeah. There's also a guy named Blake Dunn, who's 2,100, who could be a decent value play if he's in the lineup. I don't see any reason not to like the Reds. It's the best hitting park on the slate, and Freeland is certainly not what he used to be as far as getting ground balls. So they should be popular, but hard to argue they shouldn't be.
Right. Yeah. And on to the next one here. Got Mets and Nats. As you mentioned, Patrick Corbin going up against the Mets. I believe the weather is very, very good here for hitting. 15 to 20 mile per hour winds going out on a warm and humid night. So it's pretty much warm and humid everywhere, but the winds are obviously something we don't want to ignore. I targeted the Mets last night. It was a little bit disappointing. Not horrible, but they didn't get me there. So naturally, they're going to crush as likely chalk on this slate. Targeting Corbin tends to work out pretty well. He gives up a 228 ISO to righties, lots of contact in general. And he doesn't really strike anybody out anymore. So the Mets are a lot of green here. Mets look good. I have no problem with them. The only reason why I wouldn't want to play Mets is if they're super chalky, in which I anticipate they probably will be. On the other side, Luis Severino looks okay against the Nats. They don't really strike out that much, though. So not really super interested there. It's probably just Mets or bust for me.
Yeah, Severino's kind of okay. Like if Montas is mega chalk and Severino's under 10% owned, I could see getting to some Severino in some lineups just to get a little different. But like you said, low strikeout matchup against Washington, hard to love that. The Mets do look phenomenal.
Yeah.
They've hit for a ton of power against lefties this season. The top 6 hitters in the lineup have ISOs of 189 or above this season. So I see it. Corbin's the worst pitcher on the slate, maybe the worst pitcher in the league, except for Adam Major, perhaps. But
poor guy.
Yeah, and beyond Lindor, they're not, and Alonso, they're not super expensive. Like you're getting a decent value with Tyrone Taylor, Mark Vientos, still a mid-range salary. JD Martinez, long history of success against lefties. Even Nimmo, lefty this season has been excellent. So perhaps he's a way to get a bit different within your stack if he's going to go a little under-owned lefty. So
yeah, I mean Bader even historically, right?
Yeah.
Bader's historically a very good lefty hitter. So.
Right.
Or again, a good hitter against lefties.
Even Jose Iglesias this season has kind of hit decently well. But
he's hitting extremely at 438 WOBA. He just doesn't supply a lot of power, as we know. We'll say on the other side with Severino, he did do well, 23 fantasy points last time he faced the Nats. but in his last 5 games, he's topped 10 fantasy points once. So the form hasn't been great. So yeah, I think we're in unison here. Mets are bust for the most part. At the 7.5K price, I'm okay with Severino because the pitching slate isn't good, but I'm not super excited to get there. Michael Wacha takes on the Cardinals, and on the other side, Sonny Gray taking on the Royals.
I think that was updated, by the way.
It's true revenge. What?
I think that was updated. I believe this is a doubleheader, and
is this on the slate here?
Yeah, game 2 is going to be, I think, Alec Marsh against Griffin Graceffa.
It still shows Wacha here for me.
Well, it's wrong. I don't think it adjusts for doubleheaders because if you click over to game 1, it's probably also going to show same people.
Okay, fair.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think it's Gordon Graceffa and Alec Marsh, I think, in game 2.
Okay, well, in that case, I think you can go with either offense here because, I mean, Alec Marsh has kind of done okay on the year, but I think in general he's still a guy we can target. I would just lean towards the Royals here, but I think we glitched out a little bit there, but
10 seconds, yeah. I don't know if it was me or you.
Yeah, so we're back. Point is, I'd consider Royals here due to the pitching, but due to the park also, I'm not like super excited. This isn't like a game I'm prioritizing.
No, this Graceffa guy is a prospect. Like he's an okay top 10 prospect for the Cardinals, but the numbers aren't great. He's had control issues. The strikeout stuff is kind of okay. I would have interest if he were cheaper, but he's 7-3, so we're not really getting a discount on him either. And the Royals are not a pushover offense anymore. St. Louis against Marsh is somewhat interesting just because Marsh has been kind of lucky. He's overperformed a bit so far this season, but like you said, the park's bad. There's good weather elsewhere. Not my favorite game.
Yeah, it just doesn't, on a big 10-game slate with a lot of other options, doesn't really seem like we need to go there. Also, Royals, like their best players are not exactly cheap. So, all right, Miami and Houston. I really thought Houston looked good as a sneaky stack yesterday, and no. Anytime Houston looks really good, they just do not. They do not get it done for me. That said, they look okay today. Brian Hoying, his numbers look decent in a small sample size this year. Last year he was not good against against the lefties with a 321 ISO. So Jordan can be chalked up as a nice one-off. Astros overall are fine. Frombear on this slate looks pretty darn good. The price is only 8.3K. I don't mind that. Not the most amazing strikeout matchup, but at 22.5%, it's not bad either. And the Jazz. I looked at Jazz Chisholm and I was like, the Jazz. But the Marlins don't have a lot of pop here, so they don't seem very scary. I think he feels like a pretty safe play, even though the strikeouts haven't really been there this year.
Yeah, there's not a very high floor. Like if he gives up a few runs, he's going to have time putting up a big score against a average strikeout offense like this. But the Marlins do hit the ball on the ground a shitload against lefties, 53.4% for this projected lineup. Obviously, some small samples in there, kind of skewing the numbers a little, but Josh Bell, Jake Berger, Jazz Chisholm, Emmanuel Rivera, all very high ground ball hitters in decent samples. So it is a good spot. It's a good spot for run prevention. Like you said, the team has little power. They're not imposing in general. So Framber at 8-3 is going to be hard to get away from, I think. He and Pivetta make for the most obvious pairing on the slate. Montas being kind of the SP3, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it drops off a cliff, so should be fun.
Yeah, the real question is which one of those guys is going to get absolutely obliterated.
Probably Frankie Montas, because he's Frankie Montas, and it's not 2018 anymore. But
maybe I might go right back to Oakland though, because as good as Pivetta looks and as appealing as he is on this slate, it's not good. It's not a good spot. His ISO to righties, the park, the power that Oakland does have. So anyways, we got Pittsburgh taking on the Brewers. The Pirates put up 12 runs yesterday. So I had one Pirate stack floating around out there. Unfortunately, it had Lodolo, so it didn't really materialize. But Martin Perez takes on the Brewers. He just is kind of a dude that survives. His numbers don't look good on the year, so the Brewers are certainly in play in a fairly hitter's park. Tobias Myers has been kind of hit or miss. So the Pirates get a park upgrade. So I'm okay with Pittsburgh. I'm okay with Brewers. Not really eager to play either of them, but I guess I would have a lean towards the Pirates just because the park upgrade. Not super excited about this game though.
No, this is a lot like the Cardinals game to me.
Yeah.
Like just kind of there, two middle of the road offenses for the slate. Like Martin Perez is not good, but historically he's a guy that also doesn't really get his ass kicked in.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Like you can always play Adames, Hoskins, Contreras, Churio, and just hope for the best. They do have speed upside too, but Perez historically isn't really a guy you can run on either. He's a lefty, so yeah, this game looks like mostly a stay away today.
Yeah, very good point on the fact that he's not going to give up a lot of steals probably because the Brewers make their living by getting on base and getting bags. So yeah, not the best spot for them at all. All right, Rangers have been very popular lately because they've had some good matchups, and this is a good hitter's park. So they look viable enough, especially when they're taking on Griffin Gas Canning. I feel like he's turned it around a little bit lately. Let's see. Look at his game log. No. He did have one really good game against Oakland, so that means absolutely fucking nothing. So yeah, Rangers look awesome. Don't have a problem with them at all. Michael Lorenzen takes on the Angels. Angels are never the matchup we think they are, I don't think. But they even get Anthony Rendon and his power in there. But yeah, I'm not super interested in Lorenzen or the Angels. Given the park and the pricing, I think the Halos are a fine stack in GPPs. But it's mostly just Rangers here. And the only concern would be, are they going to be like chalky? But given the other situations we looked at, I kind of doubt it.
They could have some chalky individual hitters, like Seager will probably get some attention.
Sure.
Maybe Josh Smith and
He's kind of cheap, honestly. Seager was like 5K.
Yeah, 5K flat.
Too
the
cheap.
Full stack's not going to be very chalky, I don't think. So I do have a lot of interest. Canning has been fine, not terrible, not good overall. Similar story with Lorenzen. Like his numbers are not good, but he hasn't really gotten. His numbers are bad, and he hasn't been as poor as the numbers would suggest. You know what I'm saying? Like he's been a little bit lucky to kind of skate by. So
yeah,
Angels are horrific, especially against righties. But as always, I have some interest. Ohapi being a good hitting catcher is worth a look. Willie Calhoun, Brandon Drury, both 3K flat. Sean Noel, cheap leadoff hitter. I can see the merit of the Angels, but I'm not really getting to the pitching in this game.
Look at that. Anthony Rendon ISO. Just beautiful.
Lovely.
Disgusting. Yeah, I mean, they technically have powerful bats in a good park. So, like I said, I'm okay with it. It's not a priority for me. It's Texas or bust in that game for me. Moving on, we got Arizona hosting the Braves. You got Charlie Morton going up against Arizona. Charlie Morton in name is fine. I don't like the 8.8K price, and the matchup isn't good. The Diamondbacks don't strike out that much, and they bring a collective 180 ISO. I would be leaning on the Arizona side here for sure. Slade Ciccone, I think, is the name. Isn't good. So the Braves look pretty good here. I actually like the Braves quite a bit. They're one of my favorite kind of under the radar stacks of the night, just because couple of these other spots we talked about should be pretty high owned. They have 167 collective ISO, and he obviously has not been good against either side of the plate. So yeah, I like the Braves quite a bit. Also, they are kind of like really cheap too. So
yeah, they've gotten cheaper. I do like them a lot
there.
too. Ciccone is just not very good, especially against lefties. Albies, Kelnick, pretty good values. Sean Murphy, cheap enough catcher for what he's done historically. He's been pretty bad this season, but not a huge sample on him. I don't think Morton's a bad play. Like he's definitely overpriced, but Arizona is also not the most imposing offense so far this season. I feel like they've kind of underwhelmed a little bit. So I think Morton is playable just because the slate lacks depth on the pitching side, and ownership has to go somewhere. I don't mind pivoting some of that to him, even if he is overpriced for who he is. Arizona, I'm not getting to at all, and Ciccone, I'm not getting to at all.
Yeah, I'm just on the brave side of that for sure. I just feel like Morton is a little bit overpriced. Arizona's definitely not an offense to mess with that much. I mean, his game log is disgusting. 4 points, 27, 4 points, 29, 10. Morton's just all over the place. I'm with you that I don't know if I necessarily have to go stack Arizona here, but I don't really like Morton at that price. Last game of the night, we got the Jays taking on the Giants. Chris Bassett taking on the Giants. Logan Webb on the other side. This honestly might be the best spot for pitching. It's a good pitcher's park. These offenses are capable, but not like, dominant. The Giants have a 23% whiff rate. The Jays don't strike out that much, for at least when you're looking at the projected lineup, but they also have been a major disappointment on the year, and we know how good Logan Webb is at preventing power. So, I mean, I would favor Webb here. I don't love that he's pushing 10K, and the strikeouts aren't necessarily baked into the matchup, but I'm okay with Webb, especially if Pivetta is going to be really chalky, pivoting to Webb at 200 more, and like you can decide if you want to stack the A's or not. I think that's a pretty good strategy. And then I'm okay with Bassett. What's his price? 8.5. I think that's okay. I like that better than Charlie Morton personally.
Yeah, they're essentially the same guy, and they're essentially the same price. So I don't have a huge lean one way or the other. I think they're both perfectly fine on this slate. Logan Webb is okay. The strikeouts are limited. The strikeouts and the matchup are limited. So upside could be a little bit sketchy. He's essentially right-handed Framber Valdez. So he's an okay option, just nature of the slate. We probably wouldn't have played him at all last night, but today he looks a little more appealing. The bats in this game are maybe the worst on the slate, like bad park, pretty good pitchers on the mound, not great offenses to begin with. So pitching or nothing for me in this game for the most part.
Fully agree. All right, that is going to do it for us. Sorry for some technical difficulties. I definitely froze at least twice. I got to call my internet provider, man. Just terrible. But anyways, hopefully I helped you out. If it did, please give this video a like and also consider subscribing to the channel so you can get alerted to future videos. And we also cover other sports. So when the NFL season rolls around and NBA comes back, we will definitely be hitting both of those. All right, thanks for watching and good luck.